Okay, so you found your dream home. Now you just need to make it yours. So it's time to write an offer. Hi, my name is Mitzi Nowaski, realtor in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, and through a customized high-touch approach, I help people just like you sell their home for the most amount of money possible in the least amount of time and purchase their dream home so that they can step into their next adventure with excitement and confidence. So today I want to talk about writing an offer. In the last video, I talked about hiring a realtor. If you haven't done that yet, make sure you watch that video first. But this would be the next step after you find that home that you want to place an offer on, is we need to write the offer, and there's several steps to it. I'm not going to go too much into the strategy behind writing an offer because there definitely is strategy, and that is a whole nother conversation. If you're interested in me doing a video about strategy, make sure you drop a comment below and let me know that that's something that you want to learn about. But for now, I'm just going to basically talk about the steps that go into writing an offer. So you have viewed the home and you have obviously left the home. You call your realtor back up and you say, hey, I really, really like this one. And you kind of talk about a little bit about what would the next steps be, what would go into making an offer on this home. And so your realtor is probably going to go back to their office and run some comparables and kind of learn a little bit more about that neighborhood, what homes have recently sold for, the days on market, that kind of thing, because that will all kind of feed into the strategy of determining a price. But just to kind of go over the basics, once they do their research, they're going to come back to you and they're going to talk to you about a purchase price for the property. They're going to talk to you about how much you would like to ask the seller to pay in seller paid closing costs. And what that means is essentially there's closing costs that go into the purchase of your home. And that could be anything from title company fees to the lender fees. And, you know, every title company and lender is different. So they're going to have all these tiny little fees on the line, listed out as line items that help you basically bring your home to the closing table and get the job done. There's several little services that go into closing on a home. And so that's what those closing fees are made up of. And so what you can do is ask that seller to pay for a chunk of those, and you write that into the offer. A lot of times people don't have money on top of the down payment money that they saved up to stick into the closing costs as well. So it's very common to ask a seller to pay for the closing costs. And sometimes you'll just make that offer price a little bit higher to kind of compensate the seller for helping you pay for the closing costs. So for an example, just for easy math, let's say the house was $100,000. That's what it was listed at. And you wanted to offer $97,000, but you needed about $5,000 of closing costs. And you need the seller to help you pay for that. So you offer $102,000. And so $5,000 of that the extra money that you put in your purchase price is going to go towards paying for your closing costs. And that will be signified on the purchase agreement. So first, purchase price. You'll also talk about the closing costs when you're talking about the purchase price because they kind of go into the same conversation. And then you're going to figure out how much you want to put down for earnest money. Earnest money is kind of your skin in the game. It's the money that you put down immediately after you get the home under contract. And that money goes towards your down payment. So it doesn't get lost in the transaction, but it basically tells the seller that you're serious about purchasing their home and that you're willing to put some skin in the game. Then you're going to talk about contingencies. And this could be a home inspection contingency. So basically you're going to get that home inspection done first and kind of satisfy your questions or anything that comes up in that home inspection before you lift that contingency. Do any negotiating, any repairs, that kind of stuff. Then that contingency is lifted and you essentially move on through the rest of the process. There could also be a contingency that requires you to sell your home before you're able to purchase this home. And a lot of times when you have a home to sell, you'll have to put that contingency on your purchase agreement in order to make sure you have the financing in place to purchase this new home. If you're a first-time home buyer and you're moving out of an apartment, you're probably in a good spot when it comes to that because you don't have to have a contingency to sell your home first. So Then you're also going to decide what the inspection period will be. Obviously, inspections are optional. And so if you don't do an inspection, you won't be putting an inspection period number of days on your purchase agreement. But if you decide to do an inspection, you will have an inspection period. So that could be 5 days, 10 days, 15 days, whatever you decide you want to put on there. And then a closing date. So a lot of times sellers have a closing date in mind that they would like to use. And this might depend on the house that they're moving into or whatever life plans they've got in front of them. And so that would kind of come into more of like the strategy behind writing an offer. But you'll just pencil in a closing date. Typically, this is going to be 30 to 45 days out, depending on how quickly your lender can process your loan and get you to the closing table. But that is pretty much it. Aside from other terms, if there's anything else that you want to add into the contract, and this is where creativity comes into play, you can kind of write that down in the other terms section. And your realtor is going to draft this whole contract. It's called a purchase agreement. They're gonna talk to you about all these items, and then they're gonna type it all in, prepare it, and send it over to the listing agent along with your pre-approval letter. So that's important. You need to have that ready to go. And then any other documentation such as disclosures. Usually the seller's property disclosure is the main disclosure that they're sending over. And there might be other disclosures that are required kind of depending on what state you live in and the real estate laws in your state. But they're going to send your offer, your pre-approval letter, and maybe a little summary or blurb about your offer, a little bit about you, over to the listing agent. They're going to discuss with their clients and hopefully get back to you either with a counter offer, or maybe they'll even accept your offer. That's always the most ideal situation. Sometimes if the offer is really, really low, the house hasn't been on the market for very long, they might just say, you know what, at this point, we're not going to counter. We're just going to see what other offers come in. Or if there's a multiple offer situation, you might have to wait a little bit of time before you hear back, because they're looking at probably several offers on the property. So that is the steps to writing an offer. If you are interested in strategy behind writing an offer, put a comment below and I will do a video on strategy. And if you have any questions, please type those below too. I love hearing what kind of questions people have about how the real estate process works and filling in those gaps of knowledge so that you can be confident when you go to purchase your home. Okay, thank you for watching.